I believe the development and the reception of Battlefield 6, or whatever they end up calling it, will end up being a huge factor into the development and hopefully eventual release of Mass Effect 5. And I want to talk about why. So here I reference the Battlefield Labs announcement. This was the announcement of what was essentially their game testing program that's been going on for a few months at this point. If you haven't been keeping up with Battlefield, it's very likely, due to some things that are happening right now, they're likely going to be, I would imagine, announcing the release date of this next game here in the next week or two. That's a whole different video. But the reason I think the development and the reception of this game has a big impact on BioWare and the next Mass Effect game is because I think they're going to be developed in a very, very similar way. So, referencing back to this initial Battlefield Labs article, that announcement blog, whatever you want to call it, I don't even care about the content of it. What I do care about is when you look at this video, at the bottom of it, you see the Battlefield Studios. We have Criterion, who we recently found out is no longer going to be working on the dirt racing game, Dirt, I believe. And there's rumors that the Need for Speed franchise has been shelved as well. Criterion, I believe, was that studio. We have DICE, who is the historic lead and the developer and originator of the Battlefield series. Ripple Effect, which is a studio I think they only created to be a co-dev, I think just for Battlefield from what I've seen. And then Motive, which, if you're a Mass Effect fan, should sound familiar. This is what remains of a former BioWare studio, and is the studio where a lot of BioWare devs landed after Dragon Age the Veilguard released, and they at first temporarily moved people to other studios from BioWare, and then made that move permanent for at least a decent number of those people to work on the Iron Man game that is over at Motive. But this tells us a few things. Criterion, knowing what we know likely about them now, they're probably a big co-dev. Ripple Effect, like I said before, seems like they were created to be a co-dev. And then Motive has at least two teams. They at least have a full development team for the Iron Man game that is being worked on, and must have a decent sized team helping out with Battlefield. You can see more about this a little bit if you click into this link and you see the things here. You see all the studios here. They did kind of a little write up about it. So you see here the kind of background on this. So this used to be DICE LA. We're learning as we go here, and it's led by a few old Battlefield veterans. And then we have Motive, who many of us would be familiar with. I am actually most familiar with them most recently because of Dead Space. That remake was amazing. I thought they did extremely good work there. Not to mention that Star Wars Squadrons, I think, is one of the more underrated Star Wars games that's come out in a very long time. Now let's get into why this probably matters a lot for BioWare and the next Mass Effect. So my prediction is that the next Mass Effect will be developed almost the same way, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if it has a lot of the same devs working on it. We know that BioWare has been reduced in size significantly. We've had statements from Mark Dara, a former BioWare lead who worked there as recently as last year, talking about how BioWare is probably a Mass Effect only studio. In the same video that he put out a few weeks ago, talked about how current BioWare isn't big enough to develop a Mass Effect game on their own, so they're going to have to staff up and or get code development help. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see some of those same studios. I would say it's a near guarantee that we'll see EA Motive be a co-dev with BioWare on the next Mass Effect game. I wouldn't even be surprised if we see a Criterion or maybe even a Ripple Effect, depending on what they would need them to do. I've long predicted, or maybe at this point long, that there's going to be some kind of multiplayer element to the next Mass Effect, similar to what Mass Effect 3 had in its original release, as essentially a revenue stream. I don't want it to be a complete money grab, but after what we saw happen to Dragon Age the Veilguard, in the way that EA kind of threw it under the bus as soon as they could, and just single player games in general today, I'm not against there being another revenue stream. And if that is going to be a thing, I would be really surprised if a core BioWare team would be the one working on some mode, even if it's something like a wave mode or a wave defense, or essentially what the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer had. That would almost be certainly handled by a third party studio or a co-developer within EA. I would personally love to see like a Respawn do development on a multiplayer game for them, or a multiplayer mode. We know that they seemingly have had a huge chunk of their in development projects canceled in the last 6 months or so, and so maybe that opens them up for that. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if Criterion gets in there and helps them out with, especially if there's going to be vehicles in the next game, because that's kind of what they're good at. A ripple effect, just from a shooter perspective, we could see that. And like I said, motive, heck, maybe even DICE will be involved. I would guess not, though. They're probably going to be pretty focused on Battlefield for the next few years, and I kind of suspect I'll let them focus on that. I don't think this is a bad thing. I come from covering the Division, from an Ubisoft game, which even the Division 1, but especially the Division 2, and almost certainly the Division 3, which is coming out hopefully in the next, I don't know, 6 years. They were all developed this way. Ubisoft has been doing this for a long time. You'll see a main studio given credit for developing Ubisoft games, but if you ever look in the credits of their games, it's almost, there could be a dozen studios in there. Ubisoft is a hilariously gigantic publisher. They have so many studios, and the vast majority of those studios are actually co-dev studios. They've got studios seemingly in every country in the world. I do think it's 30 plus studios, with only maybe 5 to 10 of them being, main, lead development studios that have whole franchises attached to them, right? Where the other 20 studios or so are literally just there for co-dev. I think that is very likely to be what we see happen with Mass Effect 5, and I think that's okay. In some capacity, unfortunately, with the way things have worked out at EA, you would have a lot of the people who used to be at BioWare then working on a BioWare game again, even if it's not under the BioWare studio. Hopefully that would be a good thing for the people who, maybe have been there for the express purpose of working on Mass Effect before everything kind of went crazy. And it seems like if it allows these studios to stay small, not have to hire real big, I suspect BioWare will have some kind of hiring blitz either way. But if they don't expect BioWare to balloon up to 3, 4, 500 devs for one game, and then that game comes out, and then do they have to deflate again? Do they have to fire 200-300 people? And we have to go through that whole process again. That used to be fairly normal a long time ago. I think if doing a co-dev thing lets them be more nimble, lets them be more agile, and not be so heavy. I hope it's good for the game, and I hope it's good for the people. Like, at the end of the day, that's what matters. And for someone like me, and I assume anyone who's watching this who wants to see a Mass Effect 5, I would hope that this is a potential solution to the alternative, which is Mass Effect 5 doesn't come out, BioWare gets shuttered, things go real bad real fast. I would like to think this is a good alternative. So let me know what you think down in the comments of the co-dev idea, if you think this is likely, or if you think I'm blowing smoke. I'm very curious to your take on it. If you like this video, if you want more Mass Effect news, BioWare news, just gaming news in general, consider subscribing. Hit the like button so as many people can see this video as they can. If you really want to support what I'm doing, consider becoming a YouTube member to get videos just like this one a bit early. If you want to see the other things I work on or see other ways you can support what I'm doing, check out the links in the description of the video. That is all I have for this one, so until next time.